Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great week. And we're going to get right into it today. We're going to talk about something that's very important. I've been excited to switch topics. The last few weeks, we've been talking about cash flow. And as important as cash flow is, I think a lot of the topics that I'm going to be switching to are a lot more impactful for executives like yourselves who are busy. These are going to be way more impactful decisions to be thinking about. And today we're going to be talking about what changes when you hit higher levels in your career, whether it's director, VP, SVP, whatever it might be. As you move up in your career, your life will change quite drastically, and the complexity of your financial planning will become more prevalent. So if you are watching live, feel free to comment where you're watching from. I'd love to see where you're at. And I hope to see some familiar faces, but let's get right into it. So, what changes when you hit director? So, yes, you have a new title, but you have a lot more responsibilities, and your finances are going to change. Your tax planning will change. Your benefits, you might have more. So, we're going to talk about all of those things. And we're going to talk about it from a high level. And then I also have a blog. By the time, if you're watching the recording, it'll be out by then. That'll talk about a little bit more specifics around this. I'm going to be diving deep and drilling a lot of these topics pretty hard because there might be a lot more nuance than you may think when you do get promoted to some of these roles. So my name is Spencer List. If this is your first time watching or you've never heard of me before, I'm a former professional musician. I played all the saxophones and woodwinds for almost 20 years. Then I switched careers and I'm now a holistic financial life planner for music executives. And I still give back and do financial literacy for free to the music industry just to educate and give back. And then I also do pro bono financial sessions for musicians facing financial hardship. So I'm still connected to my past life in that way, hopefully giving back in a meaningful way. I'm not into small talk or holidays. The holiday thing might be because I was born 5 minutes before Christmas. Who knows? I am caffeine free, but I will get a coffee with you. I just won't actually order any coffee. And then outside of music, especially once I switched and stopped playing professionally, I had more time. As many of you know, music is all encompassing. My other interests bubbled up, so I've always been into woodworking, and I grew up playing hockey, so I like hockey as well. MF Doom is my all-time favorite artist, and I'm a husband and father of a newborn, and so family is doing well. So why is a former professional musician now a financial planner for music executives? It's mainly because of this screenshot. This is my checking statement almost 10 years ago. I came back from a tour. I was doing really well, making a living performing, playing with household names. I'd played on many records at this point. I achieved my dream of making a living playing music when so many people in my life said it wasn't possible and you could never make any money, all the common tropes that we hear in terms of like the starving artist and things like that. So up until this point, I felt really good. I always had some savings. I was never really living paycheck to paycheck, and I was living my dream, so to speak. And I came home from a tour. This is summer, August of 2015. It was a West Coast tour with a Brazilian band. It was super fun. It didn't pay that much, but it was just one of those more just the people I was around and the music we were playing was really enjoyable. But I was away from home. I was not making as much money because I was not at home. I was on the road. And I was spending. So I was spending while I was gone and not making that much for the time that I was gone. So I came back with $67 to my name. I remember I came back to my little rental house. It was $300 a month back then. But it can also give you some insight into what type of place I was living in. It was over 100 degrees, so it was just miserable. Like everything about life just kind of came to a head in a negative way at this moment. I felt vulnerable and scared and unworthy. I'd spent my whole life. I have a master's degree in jazz studies. I spent all my money, resources, time, and effort towards this career that I thought would be fulfilling. and I sort of had nothing to show for it. I was missing friends and family weddings to go play strangers' weddings. I was performing in $1 million homes, but I wasn't owning $1 million home, right? So it was a wake-up call. It was my financial rock bottom, but it was also a shift in my relationship with music. And I think we all have shifts with our relationship with music as life goes on. So this was a big one for me. And so I never wanted to feel this way again. And I said to myself that no other music professional should feel this way either. This should not be the norm that we are financially illiterate and that we're making poor financial decisions just because we're creative people. So I taught everything I could about personal finance to myself, and I implemented those things and drastically changed my life in a very short amount of time. And that curiosity just continued and led me to become a certified financial professional planner and teaching my music community financial literacy. And so, long story short, I've now started my own financial planning firm, and music executives are pretty much neglected completely, and they need help. You need help if you're watching. So, because we're not talking about these topics in the music industry ever. So hopefully I'm filling a void here, but hopefully that was a medium version. Every time I try to do a long version or a short version of my story, but feel free to read more on my website. But I am still connected to the music industry in this way, and my relationship with music has just changed drastically over the course of my life. And for me, it's been this interesting path. So everything we talk about today is just education. None of it is personalized financial advice or tax advice. I don't know your situation. I don't know enough about you, your goals, your values, your priorities, your relationship with money, your money story and history, and what you want your life to look like to tell you what to do. So just take all of this as information and education, and I'm happy to answer your questions here or privately, or you can all show all my resources at the end that you can connect with and learn more. So when you are promoted, congrats, right? There's a lot of emotion around this. You might have been working your whole life to move up in your career. And I actually need to make this a little bit smaller. 1 second so you can see this. There we go. That's good enough. So whenever you're promoted, the normal thing that we think about is our income's going to increase. But it increases in ways that you might not expect, right? Your salary usually only goes up to a certain point, and then other forms of compensation enter the picture. So that might be bonuses, performance stock, and profit sharing, equity. I've talked about this a lot. I have a lot of other resources about stock options, deferred compensation, and there might be additional employee benefits available to you. So there's going to be potentially a lot of new things that you're not even aware of how they work. And you're going to have to make decisions around those things in some cases, especially like stock options and deferred comp. All of a sudden, you're used to just getting the salary. Hey, this is what I get paid. Here's what goes into my checking account after taxes and saving for retirement and paying for my benefits or whatever it might be. But now you have to be a more active participant in your compensation. And I've talked about this in other streams as well. When you are compensated in other forms, in alternate forms other than cash, it's really easy to misappropriate that money as compensation. Like, we don't actually think of that stock as compensation. We just see it as stock. And so there are some tips and tricks around that under this decision making, but there is a lot that you need to be aware of, and there's timing. And there are tax implications, right? So there's a lot of things that we want to make sure that you have covered and that you understand fully what you're getting into, because when you make these decisions and you have options, it's really easy to get it wrong. It's really easy to make mistakes, be penalized, pay way more taxes than you need to. So this is something where an expert can help you, or you can just keep learning from things like this. So like I mentioned before, taxes get a lot more complex, especially when you're making decisions throughout the year. In the case of like RSUs, restricted stock units, those vest at a certain time, whether it's once a year or sometimes it depends on the vesting schedule. It might be 25% in the first year. So after 12 months, 25% of your RSUs vest, and then every month for the next 3 years. Every time your RSUs vest, that is taxable income to you and you are taxed on it. So you need to plan for that. Deferred income is a way to lower your taxes now, but then we have to think about how much are you deferring and when do those deferred payouts happen. We're going to do a lot of tax planning to figure out the timing of all that and make sure you're minimizing your lifetime taxes. Executive benefits, so a non-qualified plan, that's a deferred comp plan. And you might have other benefits that might not be available to, just kind of the regular employee at the company. There's all kinds of benefits out there that may become available at different levels. And so there's going to be a lot of choices around that and whether it makes sense or not for you. Some of them might not make sense. You might decline them. But that's something that you need to look at when you're promoted. And then career risk management. So the higher you go, right, there are less of those positions available. You get used to that higher compensation. So if something were to ever happen and you lost your job or you wanted to switch careers, and you're looking for the same salary, sometimes that can be a little bit more difficult. So maybe your financial plan needs to accommodate for that and make sure that you're covered in the event that something happens in terms of your career stability, right? So what kind of safety nets do we have in place given that your level at your company is obviously highly sought after and less available? So the lifestyle trap. So another way to say this is lifestyle creep. So when your income goes up, if you don't have an intentional plan around all of your compensation, it's really easy to just spend it or to do nothing with it. I've spent the last few weeks talking about all this extra cash and not maximizing it, right? So one thing to do is before you're promoted, plan for if and when you are. So this is one thing I do with all my clients. Like we want to plan and prepare for the worst, hope for the best, plan for the worst, but let's plan for the best also. What if your income increases 2, 3, 4x? What are you going to do with that money? And when you make decisions in a logical, objective, neutral state, because it hasn't happened yet, you're avoiding having to make these decisions in an emotional state when you're feeling really high, from the promotion, you're excited, you're getting all this new money. Oh, what do I do with it? I'm going to go buy a boat or I'm going to go buy this house I can't really afford or whatever it might be, right? So it's really easy to let that money just disappear. And now you're working even harder, but your life hasn't improved and your financial future hasn't improved. If you're not setting aside portions of this to save for your future, a lot of people who are promoted in these positions, they have a desire to potentially retire early. And in order to do that, we need to save more. We need to increase our investments at a higher rate so that we can reach our goals so that we can stop working, right? So if you haven't watched any of my previous live streams, I've talked about this ad nauseum at this point. But lifestyle creep is real. I usually have a picture of some avocado toast because that's the easy thing to do. You go start getting brunch and stuff like that. And that's not to say that you can't increase your lifestyle, but decide in advance how much of your increased compensation is going to go towards your present self, how much is going to go towards your past self, maybe you have some debt you want to take care of, and how much is going to go to your future self, right? So when you've decided all these things, you've got a solid financial plan. You can just follow the plan once this happens, okay? And I didn't mention this yet, but when your work demands increase, your time becomes it already is your most valuable resource, but it is your scarcest resource, right? So how we manage our money, how we manage our time becomes even more important as you get busier and busier with your work, because it's much harder to have work-life balance when your work demands more of you. So there is some trade-offs there that you want to be aware of. And if that is something that you actually want your life to look like as you're moving up as an executive. So common financial missteps: no plan for equity. So we're not electing the proper things for deferred compensation. We're missing deadlines. We are just letting your stock options sit there and do nothing. You're not diversifying them. You're not selling them. You're not planning for the taxes around it. And you're just doing nothing, right? We're not maximizing and optimizing all the opportunities you have available to you. And you're just defaulting to standard benefits. You're not updating your benefits, and you're overlooking some things that might be beneficial to you. Immediate lifestyle inflation, right? What I just mentioned, the lifestyle creep. We don't have a plan for how we're going to spend or save that extra income. All right. And it's really easy to do these things. When you have all these choices, there's decision fatigue that can set in, right? So you just do nothing. And then years go by and you look back and say, I wish I had done X, Y, and Z, right? So when you get it right, we're updating your financial plan as your life changes. It's really easy for me to hand someone a financial plan, which is long, and there's all these things that you can do. And the moment I hand it to you, that plan is no longer relevant because your life has changed in the time it's taken me to present it to you, right? And in this case, when you are promoted, your life is changing a lot. And so we need to update the plan in all aspects. We're aligning our income with our goals. We're not just spending it willy-nilly. We're not doing nothing. We are intentional about bonuses and equity and your increased salary, okay? And we're preparing for the next level. You've just been promoted, but what's to stop you from continuing on this path, right? And then stay grounded. So this is something where we don't want it to get to our heads, right? Nothing is permanent. And like I mentioned before about the volatility, especially in the music industry, where we see layoffs are prevalent, and just the economy as a whole. There is a lot of volatility and fear about how things are going in life, in the world. We really need to stay grounded because sometimes these things feel great. We want them to last a long time and to provide for us and our family. But the reality is we need to prepare for the potential that does not happen. So we got to stay grounded, even though, yes, you should celebrate, but also let's stay objective and do the right thing. So here's a quick case study. So this is a music executive. They jumped from senior manager to VP, and it included a $60,000 base salary increase and a first-time RSU grant. So they've got stock options for the first time. So what we did was we mapped out the bonus payment and when the RSUs are going to vest. And we're going to show you the tax consequences of this. And do we need to make some changes? In this case, your income might go above a certain threshold where certain tax deductions are no longer available. Certain tax credits are no longer available. You may not be able to deduct your traditional IRA contributions or contribute to a Roth IRA. So depending on your income, there is some planning we can do around all those things. Do we need to switch between pre-tax and Roth for your 401k contributions to make sure that we're minimizing your lifetime taxes, right? And then in this case, they did have deferred compensation as well. So that's a decision that has to be made every year. And we decided how much they wanted to defer and when they wanted the payout to happen. In this case, they have children that are going to college in 15 years. And so we have a deferred compensation payout where every year they are deciding to defer a certain amount of their bonus, and it will pay out in a lump sum for each of the years their child will be in college. So that's one of many ways to save for college. But this one saves them on taxes throughout their life. And then we made sure to adjust their tax withholding because sometimes when you have stock vests and bonuses, sometimes the tax withholding is not correct. And so we did a tax estimate to see so that we're not getting a big tax bill on April 15th and we're not paying any penalties. And then as needed, we're setting aside funds for that tax bill and making quarterly estimated payments if needed. So we're not getting a tax surprise. Their financial plan stayed on track and they're just running and rolling and feeling good about their financial future and taking advantage of every benefit and opportunity available to them. And then they can go back to doing what they do best, and being a music executive and living their personal life, whatever that looks like to them, right? So, some of the things to think about with the next steps for your career advancement, if you're hoping to get promoted, is you might be looking at something like a 20% bonus, right? That could be a major thing for your income. Your compensation growth as you move up could move 10, 2, 3, 4 times what you're used to. These are big increases in your compensation. So there is a lot of opportunity to take advantage of and maximize if this comes true for you. And most executives miss out on their benefit elections because they're just unsure of what to do and they don't understand what all the benefits mean. So I have so many things to talk about, trying to keep these live streams short and sweet and to the point and just give you some inspiration. But I will go deeper in my blog posts and my newsletters and my resources. Of course, you can ask me directly, but if you are looking for financial planning, I am a little bit different than most planners. I am flat fee, advice only, and I am holistic. Okay, so you can learn more at motiveplanning.com. Schedule a free consultation, see if we're a good fit. I'd love to learn more about your story. If we're not, I'll refer you to someone who is a better fit. And I would just love to meet you. So feel free to ask any questions, see if there's any questions in the comments. And then on the replay as well, feel free to comment any questions and I'll get back to you. But I've got a blog with a lot of tools and resources and insights at motiveplanning.com. And then you can click, I think it's education is what it's called. The education tab. You can follow me at Spencer List. I'm mainly on LinkedIn, but I'm everywhere else as well, posting videos daily. And you can email me, spencer@motiveplanning.com, if you have private questions you'd like to ask, or subscribe to my newsletter. I'm actually, by the time you watch the replay, it should be live. I have a really good download I think you would like that is your key financial numbers for 2025. So it's all the income thresholds, all of the how much you can contribute to different retirement accounts. It's just got everything on there. So all the numbers you need to know for 2025, and then I update that every year and send that out. But that'll be the first thing I send if you sign up to my newsletter. And then, of course, you'll get a ton of other resources that I'll be sending your way directly to your inbox. So feel free to sign up. You can just go to my website, and it's all over the site to sign up for the newsletter. So let me see if we've got any questions live. And I am a bit delayed, so I will check to see if the comments might pop up a little bit after I got to this slide. But while I'm waiting to see if there are any questions, I'm going to move on to my little outro slide, and feel free to reach out. I hope this was helpful. And I'll see you all next week. We're going to keep diving into the executive compensation and what it looks like to move up in your career and all the financial planning tactics and strategies, mindsets, money psychology, and education. We're going to be going all in on all this stuff, and hopefully it's super relevant for you in your life. So I hope you all have a good one. I'll stick around for a few minutes. So feel free to comment, and then I will reply in the comments or reach out to me directly. And I hope you all have a great day. Keep thriving.